contributor. Retired Brigadier General Anthony Tata has more than 3 decades of public service as a military officer, and Jessica Tarlov, Senior Director of Research at Bustle.com and a Fox News contributor as well. Welcome to all of you. Great to have you here. As we mentioned, the president has landed. It's good to have you with us. The first stop is going to be at PACOM, which is the Pacific Command. There's such a strong military presence here in this part of Hawaii, and no doubt that is going to be the focus. You can see the shot of the plane now, and as he comes in, we will continue to take you to all of this live. Mark, let me start with you. Your thoughts about the trip as we begin tonight.
Sure. Yeah, so this is the longest presidential trip to the Asia-Pacific region since 1991, when George H.W. Bush vomited on the Japanese prime minister. So there's a low bar for success here, just as long as he doesn't hurl.
Just don't
but look,
throw up.
The president has done. But look, the president's best moments in the 9 months that he's been in office have come when he's been abroad. His trip to Saudi Arabia and to Israel was a huge success. He gave a great speech in Saudi Arabia. His trip to Poland, he gave another fantastic speech, and to NATO. So I expect that this is going to be a very successful trip because he's on his best behavior and most presidential when he's on these trips. I expect he's going to give some very well thought out, substantive, solid speeches about important matters. And he's going to embrace the trappings of the presidency, which he doesn't tend to do. So I expect not a lot of tweeting, a lot of important speech making, and a lot of policy getting made.
General Tata, your thoughts on this PACOM briefing. What do you expect he will hear in there?
Well, you know, Martha, what I think is really stunning about this trip is that he's got the opportunity to go straight to the foxhole, and he's going to Pacific Command, U.S. Army Pacific. He'll get all those briefings today, then he'll go to Japan, then he'll go to Republic of Korea, and he'll be able to see actually what it's like on the ground there. And it's very important that we reach a diplomatic solution here, and I think that will be reinforced based upon what the leaders in Hawaii and Republic of Korea and Japan talked to him about. And then he goes, as you said, to Beijing, where the continuation of diplomatic solution discussions will take place. So I really see this as a two-part deal. One is to get marshal the international community to put pressure on, continue the pressure on North Korea to find a diplomatic solution so that we do not have nuclear warfare. And two is to get China to, and it's a real tough tightrope to walk, because we want better economic conditions with China, better market access and better exchange rates and so forth. But we also need their help on North Korea. So that's a tightrope that he's going to have to walk as we reassure all the allies that we're with them.
We need their help on North Korea, to be sure. It's also a time when they're expanding in the South China Seas and trying to expand their own military footprint. So it's a very delicate dance as he heads to Beijing midway through this process. Jessica, your thoughts as he has now landed and begins this big trip?
Yeah, well, I actually agree with everything that's been said on the panel so far, except for the point that Mark made about the speeches being his best. There are obviously some policy points that he's conveyed that I don't agree with, just from my own political sensibilities. But I certainly agree that the president in the last 9 months has done the best when he is abroad, and I hope that continues. I am concerned about the tweeting and him carrying on about the DOJ investigation and Jeff Sessions and everything that's going on at home. I think a few tweets about tax reform would be useful, because obviously on the Hill there's a big push to get that done for Republicans. But I hope that he really focuses on what's in front of him, listens to everyone there, and makes sure that when he's with our allies that he reassures them that we are going to be with them in every capacity that we can, and that he is tough with China, and makes it clear to them that we want to be great economic partners, we want a fair deal on everything, but that they have to do more with North Korea, and that we will economically sanction them if they're not more helpful.
Yeah. I mean, Mark, obviously, in terms of the first stop here today, to visit with the members of PACOM, Admiral Harris will be leading that trip and that visit. The president does have a good record of very strong relationships with the military and wanting the military to be strong, wanting them to lead the way with, have surrounded himself with some very important and influential generals in his cabinet. Speak to me about what you think that communication will be like when he's there today.
Yeah, well, I hope he's going to sit down and be presented with some serious war plans for the Korean Peninsula and some serious options other than sitting around and just saying we're going to destroy you, because he needs to have real quality military options. The reality is we're not going to have a diplomatic solution if North Korea and China and everybody in the region thinks that military solution is off the table. The only way we're going to convince them to do this peacefully is if they really believe, and the president's been trying to do this, that he's willing to, unlike all of his predecessors, Republicans and Democrats, for the last quarter century, he's actually willing to use the military option to stop North Korea from getting this weapon. Because we're in a situation right now where for 25 years, Republicans and Democrats have been kicking this problem down the road, and we're out of road. On his watch, North Korea is either going to become a country that can strike the United States with a ballistic missile with a nuclear weapon, or it's not. And he's there. You're right there where the last time an unchecked Asian power was able to strike the American homeland. His job, I hope that focuses him. I think there's symbolism in that he wants to send a message. We're not going to let this ever happen to our country again, and North Korea is not going to be allowed to develop the capability to hit the United States with a nuclear missile.
Yeah, you touched on such an important point, and that's something that we have been witnessing so clearly in the past 48 hours here, General Tata. When you visit the USS Arizona, and you are literally suspended above the Arizona and the 1,177 lives that it took with it. And you think about the Japanese planes swooping in to the waters here at 30 feet above the water, and the shock and the surprise of that attack. And all of World War II, the tremendous loss of life. There's no way that you can go through that memorial and not feel the weight as a president, I would imagine, of what is on your shoulders when you talk about military options.
Yeah, as you did, Martha, you will look down at that water and you will see the oil still leaking out of the Arizona, and it is just such a symbolic reminder of the blood and treasure lost during World War II. And I agree with everything we're talking about here, and that the military option is on the table, and it is seriously on the table. And when you really think about it, would we rather fight them today when we're not sure about their capability? We're pretty sure that they can't range too much of the United States. They may be able to range some of it. Or do we want to fight them in 5 years when we're sure that they can range all the way into the middle, maybe even the East Coast of the United States? I'd much rather fight them now, and I think that's the president's position here. And I'd much rather, as I said earlier, have a diplomatic solution. But if this comes to war, and I think this nation is ready for that, then let's fight them now.
But let me ask you, what do you mean when you say let's fight them now? I know Mark has mentioned the option of having a no-fly zone over South Korea and having a policy where any missile that is set off will be shot down. Is that something that you think we should adopt as a policy, General?
Well, I think really what you're talking about, Martha, is you got two real issues here. You've got the conventional threat of 8,000 artillery tubes on the DMZ from North Korea and about 4,000 rocket launchers. So they conventionally checkmate us, and that's what they've done for the last 20 years. So you've got to have a way to get at those 12,000 items of weapons that can range Seoul. And at the same time, you've got to decapitate that government in Pyongyang. And Kim Jong-un right now is Airbnb-ing it all over North Korea because of the information warfare that's going on. So and which is a good thing, because the more he moves around, the more he'll communicate and the more mistakes that they'll make. And so a lot of this tweeting and so forth is information warfare. And you and I have talked before, Martha, about diplomatic, information, military, and economic elements of national power. We're tightening the screws in every respect. And I guarantee you, my good friend General Bob Brown over there, the Pacific U.S. Army Pacific Commander, he's got a good plan for the Army. Vince Brooks, General Vince Brooks in the Republic of Korea, they've got a good plan right now, and I bet you it's a combination of conventional and nuclear options.
Yeah, can I just add to that? I agree with everything that's been said, and I think that a policy of muscular militarism is the way to go here. If North Korea doesn't feel like we'll actually back anything up, then it's totally useless. But it would be helpful, I think, if the president would make sure not to hurt any sort of diplomatic chance that we have to make progress there, like with the tweet about Rex Tillerson about a month ago saying, you know, oh, give it a rest, it's not going to work. I mean, we are understaffed at the State Department at this point. I mean, in all departments, quite